We can think of this as being, having three principal phases, right? There's the start, the heart, and the end. And, the start is all about being sure that you have some type of lightweight agenda here, namely the one-on-ones were evaluated as being more effective when there was some type of agenda created. But what was most key is who created the agenda. Where the more the direct was involved, the higher the ratings of effectiveness. Because remember, this meeting is for the direct. So therefore, we want the direct to either come to the meeting with a set of topics that they want to talk about, or that we have a set of core questions that the direct has either given us or provide feedback on. We then want to start the meeting with two awesome questions. So first is, how are you? However, a how are you question typically doesn't work, but it can with a twist.
Okay.
Namely, when you ask someone, how are you? They will typically say, good, great, pretty good, right? You just don't get much. They get automatic responses. But the research shows that if you ask someone, how are you? But answer on a 10-point scale, with 1 being terrible, 10 being great. How are you? Really? Now you get responses of 6s, 7s, 5s, and now you have something to work with. Now you can say, tell me more. Or you can say, how can I help you become a 7? All right. So there's a good basic starting question. Another great starting question is to ask people, hey, I know you were struggling with X and you were going to try Y. How did that go for you? When you have a question like that, people know that you're listening, that you're making these connections, and it's really powerful. All right. So there's some examples. There's more, but those are some examples.
Yeah.
Then during the meeting itself, the employee, while the manager is kind of creating a structure, maybe with these core questions, or again, the listing approach that I talked about, ultimately, the goal is to get the direct to talk and to share. And the manager has to be an awesome listener. In fact, another one of the excellent predictors of ineffectiveness is if the manager talks more than the direct. So the manager has to close their mouth and say the things that they say are things such as, tell me more, help me understand, what can I do to help, right? Those are the types of things that they should really be featuring. Now, don't get me wrong, they can certainly share a perspective, but ultimately they don't want to render the employee impotent. So if the employee brings to you a problem, the thing that the manager should say is, so what are your thoughts on how to address this problem? And then once the employee shares, unless it's an absolutely horrific idea that has meaningful negative consequences, let it go, right? Pick your battles. As a manager, you don't have to make your employees all do exactly how you would do things. And so pick your battles. If it's really critical, intervene. If not, let it go. So you have the heart where there's this free-flowing conversation, but it's really the manager's kind of prompting the employee to really engage and explore. Lots of offering of help, lots of appropriate vulnerability to try to create a safe environment. And then we move to the close, and the close has to exist. And a close is actually a thing. So when you think about closing, both parties talk about what they're taking away from the conversation. So who's doing what? I'm going to do this. You'll do that. Fabulous. So there's this meaningful recap so that no one leaves there wondering what was decided. And then finally, you want to try to end on a positive, right? We want to find something positive. We have a tendency to readily find problems. And so we want to challenge ourselves to end on a positive. So those are some of the key pieces, but there's so much more. I mean, that's the kind of the neat thing about the book is I lay out the most powerful core questions. I lay out how managers can deal with negative emotions, how they can provide feedback, how they can actually create a climate where they can actually ask for feedback from their directs. And so there's a lot to it, but that's the beauty of the one-on-one is that it can have so many different dimensions.